There are moments when everything you thought you knew collapses in an instant, when the air leaves your chest and time stops moving forward. I sat in my car that morning, rain hammering against the windshield, hands frozen on the steering wheel. Through the blur of water on glass, I watched the church doors. White ribbons fluttered in the wind. Wedding bells echoed across the parking lot. I had driven here to surprise the man I loved, the man who was supposed to be mine. Instead, I watched him step out of a black car, wearing the suit we had chosen together. And then I saw her, the bride, my sister. The veil lifted. Her face, so familiar, so impossibly there. She smiled at him the way I used to smile at him, and in that frozen second, my entire life shattered into pieces I would never be able to put back together the same way again. How does something like this happen? How does the person who shared your childhood, who knew your secrets, who was supposed to protect you, how does she become the one who destroys you? Some betrayals happen in the dark. They start as whispers in corners you never thought to look. They grow slowly, carefully, until one day you turn around and realize everything you believed was a lie. This is not a story about a mistake. This is about calculated choices, about secrets kept behind closed doors, about the moment I discovered that the two people I trusted most in the world had been living a completely different truth while I lived in a dream. My name is Lena. I am 32 years old. I work as a nurse at Metropolitan General Hospital, night shifts mostly, taking care of people in their most vulnerable moments. I met Darren 3 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. He worked in finance, wore tailored suits, had this calm confidence that made you feel safe. He was steady, reliable, the kind of man who remembers your favorite coffee order and shows up on hard days with takeout and a patient ear. He proposed on a quiet Sunday morning in our kitchen, no grand gestures, just him on one knee asking me to build a life with him. I said yes without hesitation, because I believed I had found my person. My younger sister Mara was 28, the bright one, the one everyone noticed when she walked into a room. Growing up, she got the attention I never did. She was prettier, more charming, more magnetic. My mother called her the firecracker and me the steady flame. I did not mind. I loved my sister. I thought she loved me too. When I introduced Mara to Darren, they got along immediately. Too well, maybe. She made him laugh in ways I could not. I noticed how his eyes followed her across the room at family dinners, but I pushed the thought away. I told myself I was being insecure. I told myself Mara would never do that to me. One evening, about 4 months before the wedding, I came home early and heard laughter from the living room. Mara was sitting on our couch with Darren, their shoulders almost touching, both leaning in like they were sharing some private joke. When I asked what was going on, Darren said she had stopped by to drop off a wedding planning book. I believed them. Another time, I saw a text on Darren's phone. It was from Mara. It said, "Working late tonight, don't wait up." When I asked him, he said she had been helping him plan a surprise for me. I wanted to believe him, so I did. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. And if you are new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The wedding was 3 weeks away. Everything was ready, but something felt wrong. Darren had become distant. He stopped reaching for my hand. He took phone calls in the other room. He said he was stressed about work. One Thursday night, I planned a surprise. I cooked his favorite meal, set the table with candles. I texted him at 6. He responded 2 hours later. "Working late. Do not wait up." I sat at that table alone, watching the candles burn down, the food getting cold. That night I could not sleep. The next morning, I did something I am not proud of. I checked his laptop while he was in the shower. I opened his messages, and there it was. Months of conversations between him and Mara. Messages that started innocent and became something else. Messages about feelings, about confusion, about guilt. Messages that ended with, "I cannot stop thinking about you." I sat there staring at the screen, my hands shaking. I closed the laptop, I did not confront him. I went to work that day like a ghost. That evening I drove to Mara's apartment. I knocked on the door. When she opened it, I asked her directly, "Are you in love with Darren?" She did not answer right away. She just looked at me with guilt, defiance, and relief that the secret was finally out. She said, "I did not mean for it to happen." I asked her how long. She said 6 months. I asked if they had been physical. She looked away. That was my answer. I left without another word. When Darren walked in that night, I told him I knew. He tried to explain. He said he was confused, that he loved me but also had feelings for her. I told him to leave. He packed a bag and walked out. And I stood in our apartment, surrounded by wedding invitations, realizing that my entire future had just evaporated. If this story has your heart racing, comment "I am still watching," because the truth is about to unfold. The days after were the hardest of my life. I canceled everything. The venue, the catering, the dress. My mother helped me write messages to guests. I did not tell anyone the real reason. I took extra shifts at the hospital to avoid being home. I stopped answering Mara's calls. She left voicemails saying she was sorry, that she never meant to hurt me, that it just happened. My mother tried to mediate. She said family is family, that we needed to forgive and move on. But how do you forgive someone who looked you in the eyes every day while lying? 2 weeks later, I ran into a friend from college. She said, "I saw Darren and a woman who looked like you at a restaurant last month holding hands. I thought it was you. But now I realize it must have been your sister." They had been out in public, living a life together while I was planning a wedding that would never happen. One night, about a month after the breakup, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Mara. The message said, "Darren proposed to me. We are getting married. The wedding is next month. I would love for you to be there." I stared at that message for a long time. They were moving forward. They were building the life that was supposed to be mine, and I was still stuck in the wreckage they created. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday morning at St. Andrew's Church, the same church where I had once imagined walking down the aisle. I told myself I would not go, but the morning of the wedding, I woke up with this pull in my chest. I needed to see it. I needed to close the door on this chapter by seeing it with my own eyes. I drove to the church and parked far away. I watched guests arrive. I saw my mother looking older than I remembered. I saw aunts and uncles and cousins, people who knew what had happened, and they still came. Then I saw him. Darren stepped out of a black car wearing a charcoal gray suit. My suit, the one we picked together. He looked happy, lighter than he had in months. The bridal car pulled up. Mara stepped out in a white lace dress. Her hair was curled. Her makeup was flawless. She looked radiant. No shame, no hesitation, just pure joy. She walked toward the church holding a bouquet of white roses, the same flowers I had chosen. She paused at the door and looked around, almost like she was searching for someone. For a second, I thought she saw me, but she did not. She walked inside. I sat in that car as the bells rang. I heard the music start. I imagined them at the altar. I imagined him lifting her veil. I imagined them saying vows that were supposed to be ours, and I realized something. This was not about them falling in love. This was about them choosing each other while I was still holding on. They did not steal something from me in one night. They chipped away at it, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. I sat there long enough to see guests spill out onto the lawn taking photos. Long enough to see Darren and Mara walk out together as husband and wife, smiling like they had won something. And maybe they had. But what they did not know was that in taking him, Mara did not just lose a sister. She lost the one person who had always been there for her. I started the car, I drove away, and I did not look back. The months after were strange. I moved to a new apartment. I changed my number. I needed space to breathe without reminders of what I lost. I started therapy. My therapist told me that betrayal trauma is real, that it rewires your brain, that healing takes time. So I let myself feel everything. The anger, the sadness, the humiliation. And slowly, the tears came less often. I reconnected with old friends. I joined a book club. I took up running. I focused on parts of my life that had nothing to do with them. I remembered who I was before them. 6 months after the wedding, I was at the grocery store when I saw her. Mara. She was alone, staring blankly at the shelves. She looked different, tired, older. The glow from her wedding day was gone. She turned and saw me. Neither of us moved. Then she walked over. She said my name softly. She asked if we could talk. I said there was nothing to talk about. She said she missed me. She said she was sorry. She said things were not the way she thought they would be. I asked what she meant. She told me that Darren had been distant since the wedding, that he worked late all the time, that she had found messages from other women, and in that moment I understood. He did not change. He was always this person. He was this person with me, with her, and he would be this person with whoever came next. I looked at Mara, and I did not feel anger anymore. I felt pity. She gave up her sister for a man who was never going to be faithful to anyone. I told her I could not forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I also told her I did not hate her anymore. I just did not want her in my life. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and then she walked away. Tell me, if you were in Lena's place, what would you have done? Would you have confronted them at the wedding? Would you have walked away like she did? Think about the people you trust most in your life. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close to you? And here is the hardest question. If you were Mara, could you have lived with yourself? Some people say love is uncontrollable. But love is also a choice. Loyalty is a choice. Honesty is a choice. Darren and Mara made their choices. Lena made hers. Walking away was not weakness. It was the strongest thing she could have done. Because sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing the game. If this story moved you, leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more stories that remind us of the strength we carry inside. Thank you for watching.